Hi there, and big warm welcome to everyone today. Thank you so much for joining us to our second webinar of the year. Today we are looking at revolutionising monitoring, unlocking the power of EMaaS. I'd like to introduce our speakers today. So first of all, please meet my CEO, Brett. Please, Brett, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Brett, CEO of 101 Data Solutions. Been working in this business since 2008, a long time. Focused around data center and data is where I come from. So what goes on in the data center, how it works, technologies involved, and yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Brett. And I'd like to give a big warm welcome to our guest speaker today from Schneider Electric, Mindaugas. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Natasha. So my name is Mindaugas. I'm from Schneider Electric. Now my mission in this organization is actually to help all of the partners to sell and adopt EcoStruxure IT platform, what we call, which is mainly focusing on the kind of monitoring and building the digital twin for your critical infrastructure. So this is hopefully what we're going to talk today about.
Love to.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we're going straight into it. Why is it important? You know, environmental monitoring, there's a lot of comments in the news about data centers, the growth of data centers, the requirement, the stress on infrastructure, the heat, and especially as we're moving into GPU-based computing, AI is more prevalent. Why is it important to know what's going on within your data center? Why is it important?
Well, I think there are many reasons, why it's important. I think it's always important to know. The more you know, the better it is, until you reach the limit when it's too much and you can't, comprehend what you know. But when it comes to the critical infrastructure, I think there are several, since we're talking about the critical infrastructure and we're talking about the critical loads, we want to know and make sure that we can control the environment for those, for that compute that is happening in the room. And there are many stories that I have when, just the fact that, we had, or customer had the ability to see what's happening in the room, they prevent something like very bad disasters happening. In the end, I think it's a good proxy, I would say, into what's happening with your compute, knowing how the environment is, how healthy is environment in your case. Would you agree, or do you see some?
Yeah, I think so. I think what I've seen is there are lots of places in the UK using old Victorian buildings, not necessarily designed for the data center. They so happen to be a historic institute where they've put hardware in there. It's been very difficult to get planning permission to put the right air con. So they're not purpose built for large scale out data centers, but what we see is usage in those becoming more and more prevalent. The stacks of kit that are in there is getting hotter, and potentially scenarios where it can be wet, flood risk, etc. We're seeing quite a lot of that. And coupled with the fact people are busy, they're really busy. They're unable to go and check on the data center all the time. They're in somewhere else. They might be working from home remotely. So yeah, absolutely, we see that as a continuing issue, and one that's only going to get exacerbated. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like in what I see, actually, this is a very good point, actually, on the not purpose-built data centers. Like everyone is talking about and this is what we love in this industry, to talk about the new data centers where you can plan, control every element in the construction. You can have it, you can plan and put the systems that you want, for you to make it work. But the reality is that when we talk about the edge, that, kits like a compute kits are put in the places where it's not meant to be. And maybe someone in the organization decides that, it's going to be temporary or something, just a bit. But the kind of the reality is that, sometimes it has tendency to grow. and nobody is kind of to change the location sometimes becomes very hard. So this is where the environment start playing like very critical role, I believe.
Yeah. I also think it'd be remiss of me to not include new data centers or purpose-built data centers, because it may not be something that's being measured within a data center. How is it performing? Is it performing to your expectation? What is your consumption? What's going on with the UPS? What's going on with your temperature? Is your hot and aisle coal balanced? The hot and cold aisles, are they balanced? Do you know this sort of information? So it does, I think it affects everyone,
Definitely,
to be honest.
for sure.
So it sort of like leads us in really into the next question I was going to ask you.
Sure.
What do you think challenges of monitoring this technology, this IT? What do you think it is? Your views?
Well, there are many. I think my opinion that kind of the bigger challenge is actually IT. People in the IT organizations that they're running. So first, there is less and less people working, for the dedicated department, and this is where I say across the board. This is like one essential. And if you have like your small IT team, most probably you're not very. I mean, they can't cover everything, and this is one of the biggest challenge, I would say. But there are those standard ones. Someone is not doing the monitoring at all, and they count on the, some kind of sensors that they have within the most expensive server that they have in this organization, or having or sometimes again like the basics are not covered, and it's very, very sad to see when for example someone can enter the room without any cards, or the doors are all the time open of the server room, and this is like and I can kind of list like million of that kind of examples. So I would say the structure and the system and the process sometimes is missing, when it comes to the monitoring of your IT infrastructure. What's your take on this?
Well, it's a people problem is what I tend to see. As I mentioned before, busy people are really, really busy. They might forget to do something or go do the round of actually checking in there. We've also seen that some of these premises aren't managed by our people in IT. They're actually managed by facilities or someone else. It's been outsourced. They've got their kit and their crown jewels and expensive hardware doing important things, running important applications, but they're not responsible for keeping the environment in a suitable manner. So what we found is we tend to bridge between IT and facilities. So we've got people who've got skin in the game to look after the kit and make sure it's operating at the most optimum values. That's something that we see quite a lot. There tends to be a disconnect.
Right, and I think this is the classic, like what you just touched, like the disconnect between the IT and facility. This is like across the board as well, and I think, and again, like I think sometimes it's very hard to draw the simple line that people tend to build organizations around. But actually, the line is not so simple exercise, because someone is supporting someone, and then your two teams needs to work together. And I always say, even to my kids, that working together is hard, and sometimes to put the systems in place, it's much better option, because then, everyone can see what is essential. We agree on the critical KPIs to track, and then kind of that's much easier, I believe. But we can always try to, make two teams work together.
That's a very good point. The KPI as well is having measurable information and historic data of what's actually happening within the data centers. I think that's underutilized and could be used a lot more in presenting business cases to the owners of the business, the executive level people of this is what's happened over the last 12, 24 months within the infrastructure. These are the areas of concern for us. These are the areas that are working really well. It's overlooked as it may be overlooked as just a tool or a service that can just monitor and alert, hey, look, there's a big problem here, sort it out. It's more than that. It's historic data and planning, and used in the right way, you can then map out a direction for how you host infrastructure, and how you plan infrastructure, and when you can how you can improve on your facilities for your infrastructure.
Yeah, but that's yeah, exactly. But on the other hand, I think it's quite challenging, for any team running the IT within the big or small organization, to take care of all of those things, because usually the team is overloaded, with many different tasks. And again, even they agree, what I see, even my clients agree that yes, we need a solution here. But look at the journey that they need to go through. First, they need to select the solution, select the right one. Who's going to do that? Then, you need to implement the solution to make sure that that solution is doing the job for you, not just something. And then the third, which is, again, being lost, I think, in many cases, which is you need to operate it. And all of those, you need to kind of follow all those three steps. Otherwise, it's kind of, you're not getting, you're going to be in the square one if you don't connecting those three dots together. So this is not so easy, and sometimes I think we have a tendency, it's just a tracking the temperature. It's just, but it's not only to get that temperature there, it's also to see how it's changing through the time and kind of make then adjust your decisions, for future planning and so on. It takes a bit of, capacity to run all of those things, and it's not so simple as, people sometimes perceive. Right.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a really good point, and it follows on to our next question. What is NetBot?
NetBots, thank you for asking. So NetBots is one of our solution, one of our platforms. So we have EcoStruxure IT at Schneider Electric. So EcoStruxure IT is an umbrella, term to cover all of the platforms that that helps you to run your IT efficiently. So EcoStruxure IT is something that, today we're not going to talk too much about it, but NetBot is one of those pieces, one of the building blocks that, customers, require to monitor and gather, different data, different sensor data. So basically we're talking about, getting temperature information, humidity, are there any leaks? Are there any dusts? And also access control. Well, the access control is quite interesting, because this is also something that, we have cameras for the buildings or for the whatever companies, but one IT team needs to see, you can gather information through the data, through the sensors, but the best is actually to see what's happening in your room. And I do remember one particular customer who's like, this is my rack, and God forbid someone will, touch it. So I need the cameras and to see if someone is opening, and I know that only my team members, can touch that rack and nobody else. And again, this is something that, Brad, you mentioned in the very beginning, that, different teams needs to work together, and it's not easy. So sometimes, by putting camera, that helps, customers or the organizations, to draw that line that it's very hard to draw, to have. But coming back to NetBot, yeah, this is basically the sensor information gathering platform that we have for, I don't know, last 25 years or so. It's built for the IT environments. It's tested. It's we went through entire journey, with many different platforms. Now, actually, we're talking about something that we plan to develop in the, for the next edition of our platform. So this is exciting times, and maybe we can talk a bit about that later on.
Sure. Okay. So is it separate NetBots for different use cases? What I mean by that is, you need one for liquid, you'll need one for temperature, or do we have effective, it's like an appliance that will feed in different types of function?
Exactly. So this is the second scenario. So we have one appliance that basically can collect many different sensor information and each customer situation is unique. And we say that, you can configure, or you can decide how many and what kind of sensors you need. Do you need to have who entered your rack, or do you need to see only the temperatures or humidity, or there's maybe cooling equipment that is quite old and it can start leaking any moment? You need the sensors to track that. So we have single appliance that, that can collect all of the information basically.
Just one question on that. Does it mean we can connect to potentially look at older cooling appliances that are already on situ?
So it's not okay. So let me clarify on this one. So we have like a leak rope as a sensor, which is usually next to the cooling equipment that you have in the data center.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that, and in majority of the cases, again, depending on the size and what kind of system customer has, but basically, cooling system has tendencies to start leaking, especially if there is anything wrong with the pipe. With the piping, and this is where the leak rope, helps a lot, because if something goes wrong on your cooling equipment and you have a leakage in your data center, you being informed as a customer like that. This is where it plays the crucial role, and again, like it's sometimes hard to believe, but when the cooling system is being designed and built, it's very expensive. It's very expensive piece of infrastructure for any data center or server room. And sometimes, the monitoring part is being forgotten. And I have, again, like customer stories who are saying, that small NetBots one sensor, saved the entire data center, because we got informed, everyone got surprised, like, what the hell is going on in our room? And then they went through, even though the cooling machine was showing that, it's operating as usual. So that this is something where, again, those critical alarms playing, usually is the beginning of the nice story, not the bad, some kind of terrible story.
Yeah, very much so. We've certainly seen that over the years of deploying the solution, where catastrophe has been averted, let's say.
Yeah. This is usually the good story, right? It's a happy.
It is a good story.
Yeah.
It is. It's good to see. I guess that leads us on to the next slide, which is sort of a slide for me, which I'll just briefly cover, around EMaaS, environmental monitoring as a service, and why is it important. I'm going to go back to what you said earlier. We understand the components of the solution, why one would put that in, how it works, and what are the different elements, cooling, etc. People are busy. The EMaaS service that we created in partnership with Schneider is putting all those components together, but delivering it as a service. What that means is we're putting people on site to implement the kit. We're helping integrate into the network. We're also providing a 24/7 help desk and integrating SMS, email alerts, and integrating with our clients' help desks to raise tickets as well. So where we find it beneficial for some of the people that we're working for, certainly large infrastructure with not many people in IT, we're a second pair of eyes. We effectively get the alert and we'll let them know, hey, this is a problem, or this is becoming a problem. Where do you see have you any views on what we're doing around EMaaS? I know we talked about it, but what do you see quite unique in that service?
So I think it's very unique, and I see that's coming like in different. So I work with across the Europe, so I see like how many different countries are kind of moving in which directions, and I think EMaaS is something unique, and this is still something new, I would say, in the majority of the major markets. However, there are different names and different, but intention is the same, because. And I can tell you like about one cycle that this is usually how my conversation with some customers starts, and I say that, look, I see that, we have a challenge, we have a solution, but there are other elements that you need to consider before doing anything. So you need to select the solution, you need to implement it, and you need to operate it. Will you start doing that yourself, or are you going to get like some kind of partner in place, to do that? And usually our conversation is that, yeah, maybe I'm going to give over, to the partner to take care of that. Because in the other scenarios, I see where they start, usually the customer is very excited to start with something new, because new toy, it's always fun. But then, after first quarter or the second quarter, the excitement disappears, and then they're coming back to the partner or to us asking for help and support. In the end, usually it's ended up that, customers are outsourcing that to the partners, And I see that, this is, I think, that one of the reasons why EMaaS is successful is because you're solving all of those problems in one shot. Basically taking care of the solution, implementing it, and helping and making insights, which again, like, even though you see and you need to sit and think. And again, for some organizations, IT staff, it can be quite challenging just because they have another, 99 things to do. So that's why I think it's very nice. I think it simplifies a lot, for customers. And where I see that's working very well is either in the large enterprise, as you said, I think you mentioned, and also in the public, institutions. They don't have too many people to run around. I think if they can put that EMaaS as a platform, as a solution, and they're eliminating a lot of problems. And this is very nice to watch. Again, different speeds in different countries. I think UK is now driving the lead. So that's why I'm very pleased, to work with the guys like yourself.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm just going back on some of the things that are deliverables. What we do find of benefit is of what's actually happened over the course of the month. So it's a real simple one-pager to digest with some great images of this has happened. And we also put some recommendations in there. We find that useful, not just to keep it in mind, but also contribute to the thought process of what's happening within the data centers and what they really need to be looking at. It bridges the executive and the people in IT who are interested in the alerts. They want to know, is this on fire? Is it flooded? Do I need to do anything about it? So it's quite an interesting combination where we're catering for different parts of the organization.
Yeah, and I think this is where the beauty of the EMaaS is, that it can be very complex on one hand, and it can be, in the end, you can summarize everything into the one pager, as you said. Even like with the same new one pager, you can kind of feed into different parts of the organization, which again is essential, because different parts of the organization has different interests. And so that's why I'm quite kind of fascinating about this idea, about the EMaaS idea, that it can condense everything into the simple KPIs that you want to track as an organization. You want to go deeper, more than happy. We can flood you with the data as much as you wish. But again, the simplicity and the ease of use, I think this is one of the essential features of the EMaaS that I see, and I believe that that's gonna, in the future, we're gonna see more and more customers who wants to jump on the platform.
Absolutely, I concur. There's a lot of value in there, but then there's also a lot of information that comes out technically, all very beautifully presented, but it's just seeing different information for different people. This sort of leads us on to the next question, although we have covered some of this. Can you, with your wealth of experience, what are some use cases that you've seen quite popular in the most recent times?
Yeah, so I would say, like, what I see is like medium, like before it was just large enterprise customers who, like, it's very important for them to deal with that, meaning they can't ignore, because if they're gonna ignore, something really bad will happen. So there was like not too many, room for avoiding to take some of the decisions. But now I see it's going down into the medium size of the companies, in, like, for example, in those, some where we have like some critical processes like healthcare or manufacturing, and even the same IT. There is another element which is also important, which is like the government or semi-government, companies or their organizations. I think everyone saw how not tracking environment can really lead into the disaster. And there was like those, I'm not going to mention, but those news were usually on the newspapers. Nobody wants to get there. And I think, like, not only the big organization, but also like even the medium businesses, or those who have, like I said, like critical processes, now they're trying to solve that problem by jumping on one platform, having like some, like a third party who's also looking after their infrastructure and reporting if something not only happens, but also to helping you to avoid that you're not going to get into the very bad situation.
Yeah. so it's almost compulsory, critical, and a nice to have, depending on the organization. We see that as a government critical infrastructure, that should be compulsory in there, and organizations who might be in the private sector, manufacturing as an example, making automotive, or they need to know, again, these are all old buildings that we're seeing or that haven't been updated, and we're starting to see that come down from LE size, large enterprise size orgs, to mid-size, who want to do something about it, or may not have a technical presence in the building where someone can pop in. And we also see it from acquisition as well. So they might be supporting someone or buying an organization with a couple of racks in it, which is now needs to be controlled by central IT.
Okay.
So it's constantly changing.
Yeah, but I think like another thing that I think is coming, and it's here, but not so easily maybe to see for now, is actually reporting on the sustainability. This is something that in Europe was a lot of companies start to reporting on the sustainability metrics.
It's going that way in the UK, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like the as the time goes, more and more companies, someone will get fined, for not reporting. Someone will realize that, okay, I don't see the full picture, and then most probably realize that, okay, it's better to give it over for someone, to take care of that, because there are a lot of moving parts. It could be that, there are a lot of moving parts. So I think this is something that where we see the drive and the questions in the very beginning that, how I do report back, on the sustainability metrics, either because my company, just gathers the information for its own use, or this is something that, it's required by law.
Yeah, that's quite interesting that with manufacturers, Dell, HPE, and a few others, I know they provide outputs of environmental factors at point of sale, but what I'm not entirely sure is if that's measured post that, what it's actually doing. So it'll be good to have an overall view of what's actually happening. I think we'll go on to our next question, which is, you talked about what's next. So can you dive into a little bit around the sustainability? Is it something that is going to be reporting? Are we able to generate energy consumption reports, or how does it work?
So it's we would need a lot of time actually to talk what's new with the Schneider Electric. So I'm not gonna even try. But instead, what I could do, I can share a bit like what is coming, on our EcoStruxure IT, as I said, like platform. What would you expect in for this year? So first, you mentioned sustainability. So yes, so last year we released one of our platform, for IT expert called, where basically customers can already start tracking their sustainability KPIs. So again, like if we would take like one step back, like to track sustainability, again, like there are a bit of complexity that you need to go through. And so basically there are scope 3, scope 1, and scope 2, which is basically, okay, I'm not going to go maybe now into the lecture of sustainability, but basically what you're operating now is kind of, it's important to track. And this is what we're providing, basically the access with our platform to make it quite easy, for the customers. In the ideal scenario, we aim to have like, one click and you're getting the report basically on your carbon footprint for your IT organization. That's the, this is where, what we released last year.
Yeah.
So in 2025, we're going to go ahead and actually create like more, making different kind of reports, not only on sustainability, but also on your IT, on the health of your IT, where are the critical, challenges could sit in your, in your infrastructure. But also, so we're going to add like more features, as you see, and that kind of functionality. But on the other hand, we're also going to try to simplify our offer. Still, we have like many different platforms that could be a bit overwhelming if you're not involved, if you don't understand. So we're going to go through the simplification process, and we're going to do the more integration. So if you have like several platforms, from our stack, you can integrate it quite easily, and you can not only, gather the data, but also kind of do the analysis on top of your data, of the data that is gathered. And so this is something that we're gonna keep doing in 2025 together with our product team. And in the end, that should bring for all of the customers, again, like more clarity, easier to use, and kind of get into the more insightful, more insights basically to get from the data that we are gathering.
So we will be using real-time data that's being produced in a real-world environment to measure against KPIs that have been set out by the organization.
Right. Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's very nice. And this is something, again, like we all the time. And again, like the beauty is that we are keep building, but also we keep asking questions. So if you see that something is missing, do let me know. in this case, like if you see that your customers are something that they would like to have, something, or I don't know, get the report for the particular regulation, do let us know. We are collecting that feedback and then like working together with the customers and kind of providing to them. So there is it's hard to see what's going to be exactly, because like we are kind of adjusting as we go through the entire portfolio, on quarter by quarter basis.
I can confirm that's very useful. We've put in feature requests in the past and have had them approved. So I know you guys are looking at them and approving them and working through them. So that's really good from a vendor's perspective. It's really positive. It's very pleasing.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy to hear that. Again, like I don't want to set the expectations that from now on. Feature request.
I'm sure they will be worked through diligently.
Of course, absolutely.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. I think we're going to open it up to any questions. Feel free to ask away. Tash, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you both. That was super interesting. As Brett said, if anyone has any questions, please put it in the chat. But obviously, if you think of something in the future, then please don't hesitate to contact us. If you do have any inquiries about EMaaS or anything that's been discussed today, then please feel free to contact us either by email or by phone. I don't think there's any questions. So thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Mindaugas, for your time and your expertise. It's been very interesting.
Good to speak to you again.
Yeah,
really
it was
appreciate
a good chat. Thank you.
All the best. Speak soon. Cheers, Mindaugas. Thank you.
Exactly. Bye-bye.